Hi everyone, today we are going to learn how to add and subtract polynomials. So when we're adding and subtracting polynomials, the main concept behind it is just combining like terms, which is something we've done in the past. So we can combine terms that are the same, which means like terms, and terms that we can combine have the same variables and exponents. And we can combine them by adding or subtracting their coefficients, which remember is the number in front. So if you look at these two examples here, here's an example of two terms we can combine. So we have 3x cubed and 5x cubed. Since they both have the same variable and exponent, they both have x cubed, this is an example of two terms that we can combine. So then all we're going to do is add up the coefficients. 3 plus 5 is 8. So we have 8x cubed. So notice when we combine the terms, this variable and the exponent, they don't change. The only thing that changes is the coefficient, which really is just telling you how many of that type of term we have. Now if you look at this example over here, we have 3x cubed plus 2x squared. So these we do not combine because they're not like terms. This is an x cubed term, this is an x squared term, so really we can't do anything to simplify this further, they just stay separate terms. But we are going to look for terms that we can combine to help us simplify our polynomials. Okay, so let's give one of these a try. We're going to start by adding two polynomials. So you can see here we have a trinomial, and then I'm adding it to another trinomial. So I want to show you two different ways that you can set these up, and you can pick which way works better for you. So one way you can do it is just by grouping the different terms together, either using colors or underlining or circling them. But one thing to notice is that this plus sign, technically we can think of it as being distributed to all three of the terms here. You're just multiplying by 1. So really none of those terms are going to change. So I'm going to take a first step and just rewrite it like this. So we have 4x squared minus x plus 7, and then we have minus 2x squared plus 8x plus 1. So notice that none of these terms changed. And now one way that people like to group terms maybe is by using different colors for the different terms. So I see that I'm going to combine 4x squared and negative 2x squared. I'm also going to combine negative x and positive 8x. And last, I can combine my constants, 7 and 1. So if I combine 4x squared and negative 2x squared, that leaves us with 2x squared. If I combine negative x, which is negative 1x, and positive 8x, it's like doing 8 minus 1, so I have 7 x's. And here I'm just adding 7 and 1 to get 8. So this is one way we can add these two polynomials. And notice that our answer is in standard form. The exponents are in descending order. Now another way that some people like to set up these problems is lining them up vertically and then doing addition in that way. So I can take these two polynomials and rewrite them on top of each other like this. And then I'm going to add negative 2x squared plus 8x plus 1, and then I'm going to add vertically like this. So I'm first going to add my x squared term, so I have 4 plus negative 2, which leaves me with 2x squared, and then I have negative 1 plus 8, so that leaves me with 7x, and then I have 7 plus 1, which is 8. So you can see that either way, we end up with the same answer. Some people prefer to group like this. Some people prefer to group their like terms vertically. So whichever way you're most comfortable with is what you should do. Okay, why don't you take a moment and pause the video and see if you can give this example a try. And we will check our answer in just a few seconds. Okay, let's check our answers below. So here you can see I showed both ways that you can simplify these two polynomials. So here I just grouped them, grouped like terms by color. One thing you'll notice is that there's no other x cubed term, so that's going to stay the same. And I have 1 plus 6 is 7x squared. I have negative 6 plus 10 is 4x, and then I have negative 3 and negative 4, giving me negative 7. You can also line them up vertically, and notice when you do this, you don't have any term underneath 5x cubed because it's the only term with x cubed. And then add going down, and you get exactly the same answer. Okay, now we're going to practice subtracting polynomials. So here you have to be a little bit more careful, and that's because of this minus sign. So if you're going to do it with that first method where we're just going to group like terms, you have to do a really, really important step, which is to distribute the negative sign to all of the terms that are inside the parentheses. So that's going to change the sign of every single term. So terms will either go from positive to negative or from negative to positive. So I'm going to list out the terms. Notice our first polynomial stays the same. None of these are going to change, but all of these are going to change. So it actually becomes negative x cubed, positive 6x squared, positive 3x, and negative 6. So from here we can group by colors. So I can combine my x cubed terms. I can combine my x squared terms. I can combine my x terms. And I can combine my constants. Remember, those are terms without variables. So 6 minus 1 is 5. So I have 5x cubed. Negative 2 and positive 6 gives us 4. So we have 4x squared. 11 and 3 gives us 14, 14x. And then 2 and negative 6 leaves us with negative 4. So here's our remaining polynomial. Now if you want to set this up vertically like we did with the last problem, you can. You just need to remember that we're subtracting all the terms. So you just need to be a little bit more careful. So I'm going to line them up on top of each other. Remember, I'm subtracting every single term. Okay, so when I do this, I read it as 6x cubed minus 1x cubed, leaving us with 5x cubed. Here is where it can get tricky. We have negative 2 minus negative 4. Remember, when you're subtracting a negative, it's really like adding. So negative 2 minus negative 6 is actually positive 4. So I have positive 4x squared. Here I have 11 minus negative 3, which is really 11 plus 3. So that's how we get 14x, positive 14x. And here we have 2 minus 6, and 2 minus 6 is negative 4. So the vertical method works perfectly well for these types of problems, but you do need to remember that you're subtracting every single term. And remember, when you subtract a negative, it's actually adding. So whichever one you prefer, whether you want to distribute the negative and then combine like terms, or you can subtract them vertically, both will give you the same result. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and give this last one a try. Okay, let's check our answer here. So you can see here I used the first method, so I distributed the negative. So notice it becomes negative 2x squared minus 5x squared minus x and then plus 5. So after you do that step, it's really just combining like terms. So if I combine my x cubed terms, I have 3 minus 2, which is 1. Remember, when you only have one of a type of term, we don't write it. We can see that we physically only have one, so that's enough. You don't need to write the 1 as the coefficient. For x squared, you have positive 5 and negative 5, which gives us 0. So if you have 0 of a certain type of term, we don't need to write it at all. So you can see that that term essentially was canceled out. For my x terms, I have 4 minus 1, which is 3x, and then for my constants, I have 9 plus 5, which is 14. Okay, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.